Ah,
Oh,
you'll get it. All right. Hey, we're live. Hey, everybody. It's John Paduchak here. Of course, I've got Ted and our good friend Mark Porteous, and we're here with Learn, Turn, and Earn.
And
And
I would just like to say, apologise for the wait that you've had, but John
yes,
has had great difficulties. This is the third hangout we have had to start because there was various things going on. He didn't have a broadcast button to begin with. Then he lost his audio. So we've been trying to start that. And in the meantime, my internet settings was wrong, so I was frozen as well. So the only one that's just about right is Mark.
well,
hey,
imagine
welcome, Mark.
that's unusual.
Hey, so on that note, today we have Mark Porteous with us, and Mark's going to be talking with us about aligning your business and your purpose. Because I know so many times, we feel kind of like out of touch, out of congruency with our business life and our purpose, with our clients and the people we serve. And today we're going to talk about that and how to weed some of that out. So, hi, Mark. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, John. Hi, Ted. Hello, everyone.
I
I'm not sure. Am I showing up on the screen?
You are.
Okay, great. I don't see it, but that's fine. So, hello, everyone. It's great to be here. I've been working with John for a long time and feel really, really deeply connected. And Ted, I've seen your work and love what you're doing because it's so much in alignment with the people that I'm working with are what I call inspired messengers. I believe everyone on this planet has a message to share. Our story, our life story, can help other people. But how do we get it out there? And the work with Hangouts and podcastings, I think, is just a phenomenal technology that really changed the way that we communicate. So being part of your show is very, very exciting for me. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're right. It really has changed the way that we communicate in, oh, so many ways. And it's this is an interesting topic today because, like I said, I think it's an area that lots of people struggle with, Mark. We just kind of feel incongruent sometimes with what we're doing and how we're interacting with new clients and new people wherever they might be. And, it's one of those topics that I'm not quite sure where to start exactly with you, so I'm hoping you kind of help us out a little bit with that.
Absolutely. I've got a couple of ideas. First,
Awesome.
first the idea is to understand why is this an important topic for your audience. People who are trying to build a business, the whole idea about that turnkey operation of just, okay, set and go. And I've been in the transformation industry now for 3 years and spent tens of thousands of dollars on learning these different programs to help me be able to share my message in a bigger way. And one of the biggest challenges that I've found, and many of my clients are facing kind of the same thing, is that either they're doing everything by the numbers and they're following all the rules and all the things that they should do, all of the mechanics, and they're not getting the results that they want. Or even worse, I think, for me, is the people who are getting the results that they were hoping for and not getting the satisfaction of the joy out of the work that they're doing. So there's two reasons for this, and I really believe it all comes down to what we're going to talk about today, which is alignment. And if your message isn't aligned with your core, with your personal values, with your spirituality, whatever that is to you, then even all the success, all the things that you envision aren't going to bring you the happiness and the joy to appreciate all the effort that you're putting into it. Or you're just not going to get the results at all, and you're going to be frustrated and feel like the programs that you're buying are failing you, or that you're failing yourself, that you're not doing the right things, or you're just not good enough, or that your message isn't important enough, that nobody's there to hear you. I've been through all these frustrations, and I have found so much peace and clarity by beginning with getting aligned with what you really want to share and what your message is all about, and then go to figure out the mechanics on the other part. So I think that it's really important to understand for anybody who's out there on, oh, alignment, what does that have to do with business? I think as we get into this a little bit more, everybody will really kind of understand that they've either been there or they are there right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's got just a tremendous amount to do with it because we connect with people on a whole new level when we're aligned. And even you and I meeting had its own little bit of synchronicity involved in it. And as we kind of go through things, I think our story, of that kind of gets even funny.
It does, absolutely. And I think that what you just said about connection is really important because, again, we're talking about connecting to people in a whole different way. One, you're able to reach thousands or millions of people, one, to thousands or one to many, as they say. But also you build a one-on-one relationship through the Hangouts and the podcasting by really getting engagement. So this is a fantastic forum.
That certainly is, and I'm going to have to take over here because I see John is frozen. He'll probably drop out, so it's nothing to worry about. We're still live, so we can still get your message out. And you're quite right. You have got to align yourself. People probably...
Hey.
Oh, he's back, look.
Well, I think Google is having a bad day.
Okay. So, as I was saying, that I think people know alignment as so many different other words and that. So, alignment is the main one factor, but there's all different words that people think of, and if they think about it, it comes back to alignment. Wouldn't you say?
I'm so glad you said that, because I think the word that in this form might be more appropriate is niching, finding your niche. But yes, you're right. There's so many words for alignment, and that's just one aspect of alignment is finding your niche.
Yeah, I think we're going to make our way through this today, and we might actually have to redo it for our audience. It seems like we've encountered a lot of interesting things today. I'm getting some freeze-ups with Google, and you guys are still able to communicate, but it seems like I'm getting totally frozen up over here in the Boston area. So
I think we should just blame it on Google. They're having a bad day.
So is John.
Yesterday I was having a very bad day, but talk about taking a day. I think, I don't know if you were following this yesterday, Mark, but I got Skype hacked, and talk about taking a day where you have something like that happening, and it's like, oh my gosh, man, I'm just like so down over this thing, but yet it wound up being like the best day I think I've ever had, because I wound up reconnected with old friends. And I lined up some new business stuff, and it wound up being like the best day ever. So I mean, talk about taking like something like that you would think most people would be like, oh my gosh, what a tragedy.
But don't forget upsetting a couple of your friends.
I did upset a couple of my friends because it was a diet thing that they sent out as the Skype message. So of course, friends were coming back and going, do you really think I'm fat? Are you trying to tell me something? It was the most hysterical. It was the funniest day ever. I mean, it really was. And even Mike Filsame and I had this conversation. He's like, I can't believe people think that stuff works. But, and maybe this actually fits into our conversation, interestingly enough, because it's all about connection. And the reason that it does work is because it is Skype. People look at us and go, oh my gosh, these people are so interconnected. If we could just get in there and work our way in, then people will say, oh my gosh, well, it's John. I like what comes from John. I'm just going to click through. And sure enough, that's exactly what happens. And, we joke about, the fat jokes and the I got hacked. And it wound up being a very funny day. So
when I saw the link, I didn't even think anything of it. I just clicked on it because I'd just been talking to John about 10 minutes previous to that. And I didn't think nothing of it. And then when it came up, I went, what the hell? So I come back and put a question mark. Anyhow, let's get back on the subject.
Yeah. So talk about, but I think this says something too. I think it actually kind of relates to the story today in that we're talking about synchronicity with our work. And people obviously have synchronicity with us because we're in line with their core values. And that's really what it's about. It's about being in line with your own core values and theirs, and how to maintain congruency and kind of follow your golden thread throughout. Yes.
Oh, no.
I got Mark thinking on that one.
No, and it's funny because, again, I really do think that everything that happened yesterday is related to this, especially because, again, you build relationships, and then this kind of is an endorsement. It's an involuntary endorsement. You're not actually endorsing them, but I see you, and I'm like, oh, yeah, John said so. Fortunately, I've seen this enough that anytime I see a link, a bare link, that I know better than just to respond to it. It's one thing if, like you said, we're just in conversation, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's just there, and I hit it. So I never opened the link, but I think it really goes to show the power of endorsement and the way that we are. So the way that you're being in the world, it's like, okay, everybody just wants to hear from you, and even if it's not really your endorsement, we want to hear about it.
Absolutely.
You know why I'm in fits. suddenly I had all these voices coming at me, and I thought, what the devil's that? And suddenly, where I've got all the different windows open on this Hangout, they suddenly released themselves, and they're all talking to me. And it's me quickly scrambling, trying to find them. So, sorry about that, carry on.
That's okay. It is funny how that kind of stuff happens. Oh, it's been an interesting hangout day so far.
It's
So
funny when it happens to other people.
it is funnier when it happens to other people. That's very true.
But the best thing is to just keep calm and go with it. It's no good getting upset about it, frustrated about it, because at the end of the day, if this doesn't work, then we'll reschedule it. And, there can only be good come out of it. People can see that we're normal, we're like any other sort of people. The only difference is we try and cure the problems, and because we've been on it for so long, that a lot of times we can get over it one way or the other, but sometimes not.
We're usually pretty good at it.
You try to cure the problem, but you address it. You say, okay, here it is. It's not like we're trying to hide it or anything else. It's a computer glitch, and it's something that's completely beyond our control. And I think it's really, really helpful, too, in our business. That I was talking at the beginning about how we buy these programs and we go step by step, but you can't always fit your business into a step-by-step process. So no matter what you're doing in your business, it's really important to be able to go with the punches. And when things come up, understanding that those may not just be a challenge for you to overcome, but an opportunity. Like John turned a challenge right into an opportunity. It really does. It creates this opportunity just to open up dialogue with somebody that you haven't talked to in a while, and see how that goes. So I really appreciate the way that you handle this, John, as well as all the other crap that's been thrown at you over the last couple of months. I really think that shows a lot of your character, is how you address challenges when they come up.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. We tend to get very frustrated when challenges come up instead of kind of like looking for the deeper lesson.
Yeah.
Like yesterday had a lot of deeper lessons, and rather than getting frustrated with it, oftentimes the way I turn around is I kind of say, okay, there's got to be a lesson in here. How do I turn this all into a silver, a dark cloud into a silver lining? And I think that's common with a lot of folks, and I think, again, it kind of falls into the whole congruency thing. It's easy to kind of fall in and out of that, and, just making sure you're always kind of in the alignment of moving forward. But that's not always easy. Not always easy.
It's not, and especially if you're not sure, is this something that's happening because I'm doing something wrong, or is this something that's happening because I'm in alignment and it's an opportunity for me to learn from? I think that's one of the biggest problems, and one of the greatest reasons for us to feel like we are in alignment. If we know that we're doing the right thing, then it doesn't matter what happens as a result. If we know that we're on path, then we can stay that course and we can figure out a solution. But if it starts getting all in our head of saying, oh, maybe this is a sign that I'm off course, when you know you're on course, it doesn't matter what comes up. You just keep going with the flow, whatever that happens to be. So I think that's another reason why it's so important for us to be really deeply aligned with our values and know that everything that we do, whether it's a reaction to some minor thing or some major thing in our life, if we know that our reaction to that is alignment with our beliefs and our values, then however that reaction happens, whatever comes out of that is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I always say when something happens, there's no good dwelling on that, because that's happened, you're not going to change it. The thing is to look forward and, as you said, be positive, see what lessons you've learned out of that, or how you can get over it this time, next time. That's my personal thinking about things.
And we could go deeply into this topic, just this topic for business. You can look in your business and you can see, like, oh, look at this problem. And if you just pick the top 3 problems in your business, you can say, okay, well, what was it that I could learn from that, and how was that a benefit to me, rather than, oh my God, this is a horrible thing that's happened to me in my business.
And even me, I often keep like a journal of those kinds of things. So like at the end of the day, I'll say, what did I do right? What could I do better? And where did things lead? What are kind of the lessons learned for the day? I found that kind of helped me along with a lot of stuff, especially early on when I was getting started in my own business. to kind of steer the way and make sure that, you know, I was kind of in congruency with a lot of the different things.
And believe me, John's book is that thick.
Probably is. I think I have several. But, you know, those are the kinds of tricks that we use, right, to kind of keep ourselves on path. Those little things can help out a lot. And then I was going... Oh,
The awkward silence.
I know.
It's only because we've lost the pattern of, you know, what we were going on. There's been just so many different disruptions and that Mark is doing a really good job trying to stop on track, although we keep taking him off. So, yeah.
And Mark is adjusting something.
I am. It's funny because I just tried to close my toolbox so I could open up my window bigger and realize that completely closes my lower third. So it's all reset. We're good to go.
Oh, cool. So,
I was going to say, in your opinion, how do you think people should go around or focus on getting aligned?
It's a fantastic question, and again, there are many different answers to that, and I don't think there's one answer that fits everyone. I think from a very rudimental perspective, you can just look at your values, and you could write a list of the different words that are important to you, whether it's security, freedom, spirituality, love. But I have a whole exercise that I do where I have about 80 different words that people can choose from, and they pick their top 10, and then they narrow that down to 3, and they come up with a theme of 3 values, that those are their core, most important values in their life. Then they can see if decisions that they make or things that are opportunities that come up. It might be an interview and saying, you know, I'm really, really busy right now, but does this interview fit with my business? And say, okay, well, does it fit with these core values? Yes, then I'll do it. So that's a very basic way to start to figure out where you are and how to get aligned with your business. I really believe that there's a much more valuable way to do it, and it's a little bit more esoteric or spiritual. And so I know that we're looking a lot at the mechanics, but I really believe, for me, everything in life is spiritual. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin wrote that we're not spiritual beings or human beings having spiritual experiences, we're spiritual beings having human experiences. So for me, my business is spiritual. I'm not religious. I'm just, everything about it is, we're here for a purpose. We want to live that. So if you believe that, or even if you don't, but you believe that you're here for a purpose, or even if you just want to be here for a purpose, figuring out, okay, well, what is that purpose, is the way to start. So having some idea of what your mission is, what the outcome that you would like to achieve with your life, whether it's your long-term life, whether it's the next 3 years of your life, whatever that is, but being clear on what you want to accomplish. And for me, it helps to know that it comes from the deeply spiritual. It's what I was born here to do. But for you, it might be just, okay, well, here's what I feel is my needs for the next 3 months. I need to prepare for a family. I need to prepare for retirement, whatever that is. So having a clear vision of what you want to accomplish, that can be enough. But whatever it is for you, being aligned with that outcome is very helpful. And when you feel that outcome, does that align with who you are as a person? Again, for me, the deepest level to know it is kind of connecting with the divine. There's a whole exercise that we can do on that. But there's simple ways to just say, what do I want to achieve? And then you can figure out if your actions are aligned with that. Did that answer your question?
It
Yes.
does, definitely. And the other thing that I was told not too long ago, and it works, is have a purpose when you're doing something. If you've got a purpose at the end of it, you will try harder to get there because you've got the purpose of doing whatever you're doing.
Yeah, and that goes right along with what I was saying about understanding what the outcome is. So even if it's doing an interview, or if it's doing a project of putting together some type of business, whether it's list building exercise, whatever it is, knowing the purpose of why you're doing that, then you can also make sure that each of the steps that you're taking does it align with that. And like you said, it also motivates you to finish the task.
Over to you, John.
So, is there beyond like kind of writing down our core values and um, what else kind of can help us to define where we want to go?
All right, I'm going there.
I'm gonna dig a little further
Okay.
because
And it's funny because each different environment that I'm in, I'm true to my message, but I also want to be able to be heard by your audience. And I know that most of you are entrepreneurs, and a lot of times we get caught up in the business and the doing part of it.
totally do.
Yeah, it's a lot of the mechanics, and a lot of people get really stressed out because they feel like the mechanics aren't working, when really it's a lot deeper than that. So for me, it comes down to two things: being and doing. Again, it all goes back to spirituality, and I don't mean to harp on that, and I don't mean that in any kind of, um, it's just a part of who I am. So there are a lot of different ways of being able to deeply align. And for me, one of the deepest things that you can do is really connecting with your own divine nature. So it doesn't have to be God, you can call it the universe, whatever it is, just your own divinity. And that's people have a hard time with that. Maybe you can only connect with something higher than yourself, with God and that divinity. That's whatever it takes. But I think really understanding how you are part of God or part of the divine, part of the universal plan, however you want it to be, knowing that you are an important part of that plan is really, really critical. And understanding the role that you play is important. And sometimes our minds, our ego minds, are here to protect us and to keep us safe and alive. So a lot of times that is really the predominant voice in our heads. When you can shift to listening to your heart and connecting to the divine, whatever way that comes to you, that to me is the deepest alignment that you can get with why you're here. And there are some really, really simple ways to do it that aren't as spooky as some of the other things I do, like muscle testing and everything else, but you can actually just ask a question to the divine, to God, to your higher self, of saying, why am I here? But before you do that, you want to get kind of a litmus test to find out what a yes or no answer might feel like to you. So you could just take a deep breath, relax, and then kind of feel into your lower belly and ask or say a question and see how that feels to you. So we know that today is actually Wednesday, but I'm going to say today is 9 p.m. on Saturday night. And it just, me, and like it just doesn't, it feels cold on my shoulders and it feels heavy in my stomach, I just know it's not true. So it just doesn't, it feels out of alignment. If I just said today is Wednesday afternoon, I feel a little bit lighter. Yes, I just get like a yes answer to that. Sometimes you can actually do it standing, where you feel pushed forward or pushed back. If you're really centered, that gives you your yes or no answer. You could say that my name is James Smith, and feel how that feels to you. And that just kind of gives you your body's response. So then you say, I have a mission with my work. And you feel, okay, yes, I do have a mission with my work. That is, I get a yes response from that. And I can get guidance on how to fulfill that mission from my inner being, divine guidance. There's some kind of force that can help me to have a clear answer on that. And I get a very clear yes, that is true. And then I could ask myself something false, saying that there's no way that I can achieve this mission. And it just gets very dark and heavy, and I know that that's not true. I know that it would be helpful to achieve this mission with help and support of others. Again, I just get this light feeling of, yes, that's true. And then I can say, I am open to receive an answer from you. What is my mission? And just by feeling that connection, I can start to write down an answer that will connect me with an inner part that I may not, that's outside of my head, more connected to my heart and my spiritual being. So that's just one kind of quick exercise to get into connection and to receive an answer. And it's almost like a channeling, but it's a channeling from within rather than channeling from some other source.
It's a good quick exercise. It's a start, and I've done a lot of that myself. So I can follow exactly what you're saying.
So would you class that as slight meditation?
I do, yeah. I think that just having a regular meditation practice really helps to clear that channel. A lot of us, I mean, all of us at some point are living in our heads, and meditation is a really, really good way. So that's a quick form of meditation. But having a regular practice keeps us oiled, and it keeps the circuitry clear so that we can get the messages and,
Yeah.
and understand them and know the difference between being in our head and our heart much easier.
And I would also say that if you're getting stressed out or whatever, that would be the time to stop and virtually do what you just showed us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a quick 2-minute exercise that you can do right in the middle of the day, or even if you're preparing for a meeting and you're not really sure what you're supposed to be doing in the meeting, or if you're going into HR or whatever it might be, that wherever you are that you might be stressed out for a moment, if you can just get clear and get connected, having some quick connect exercise of knowing that you are a divine being and that you open to the guidance. That's the biggest thing. Is the guidance is always there, and that was one of the big. I spent a lot of time and money last year taking courses on how to be more intuitive and to trust my inner guidance. And I realized that the guidance was always coming. For me, I just didn't trust it. I always thought it was my head. Being able to distinguish what's coming from your head, what's coming from your heart, or from a higher source, I think is really important. And having a regular exercise, and even if you just do it when you first get to work. Take a deep breath and you say, okay, I'm going to connect. And doing some type of that reconnect exercise throughout the day, I think is very, very helpful.
I like that I've pushed you this far. Because the challenge I think that most people take, and even though I see it's important, I do it a little bit myself, Mark, and I smack myself when I catch myself doing it, but it's like we feel like we're caught up in daily life. Don't feel like we can take the time. And I think now people can see just how important it is to kind of sit in solitude, reflect on, what's going on around them, and really kind of listen to their intuition. So there's really an important point to this, and that we just feel like we can't take the time to do it. But look how important this is, right? It's like a key to really that inner guidance.
And I think what Ted was saying earlier, like even if it's just a moment of stress that comes up in your day, being able to reconnect really helps us to move forward. One of my clients' partners is a very successful, or was a very successful scientist in getting grants, and her whole program has switched now to helping people to become more creative, more productive by doing less. That she has all the scientific research to show that when we're workaholics and we're working 12, 18 hours a day, that to get more done, but we're not taking any breaks or any time for ourselves, we actually are less productive. We get less creation done. And when you can just take 2 minutes to just kind of relax and recreate, you're going to be able to get through some of the blocks that come through in your business. You'll be able to be more open to opportunities. We just are so focused on doing, especially in our society, that it's just this non-stop, okay, the more I do, the more effective it'll be. But really, sometimes just taking 2 minutes to take a deep breath and relax will be more productive than an hour of banging your head against the computer.
John, next time that YouTube makes the changes, just remind me of this, will you? So that will save me going, ah!
Exactly. And I mean, I experienced this yesterday, where I just kind of I'm like, oh man, who wants all this crazy stuff going on? I've got my friends contacting me on Facebook, and I've got them contacting me on Skype, and you start to go, oh my goodness. I mean, hey, I'm thankful to have the friends I have that they're, one, interested enough to do this for me and help me out, but two, you just go, how many times do we encounter this on a daily basis? And yet, the best thing we can do is just kind of step away from it a little bit and look at it in a different perspective. And I think that's kind of what today's about.
It absolutely is, and I think that the technical challenges at the beginning were really helpful to kind of set that stage. Rather than getting frustrated by any of it, we kind of just flowed through it. And it fits perfectly with the direction that I'm heading as a transformational business coach. Because when I first started, I wasn't looking to be a business coach. I really wanted to just help people to maximize their human experience. That's what my book is all about, and that's what really my life message is about, is to optimize your human experience, however that might be. And I think that there are two ways that you can do that. One is through your business. The other one is through your children, through being a parent. So for me, those two are the big things that are important for me in getting my message out there. But as my business, when I first started as a transformation coach, when I was doing videos, people were always like, "Oh my God, that doesn't even look like you. You're so stiff." And so, like, I was trying to be so professional and so manicured, and it took me hours to do a 2-minute video. My wife comes in and does a video, pops it out, and I'm like, God, I wish I could do that, because she doesn't care
Done
about
yet?
perfectionist in the family. I'm not the perfectionist, but I so wanted to come off as being perfect that it never came across as authentic. So for me, it's been this constant ongoing challenge of how do I become more and more authentic. And for me, part of that is understanding that my message isn't the typical message in business. It's not about the mechanics. It's really about understanding the why you're doing business and what you really want out of it. Because really, I think that, again, a lot of us think that just having a more successful business means making more money. And I know people that are multimillionaires that still aren't nearly as happy as I am, and I know people with much less that I have that are very satisfied with a balanced lifestyle. That, for me, understanding that what I can coach in helping people with their business doesn't have to be about the mechanics. It can really be about the connection and the why they're doing it and how they get more satisfaction from doing it.
One of the secrets that we know is actually be yourself. Don't worry if you go make the mistakes, because then your personality comes through. You know, you're a real person. You can be approached. You know, like we have people say, "Oh, you're an expert in this," and we will always turn around and say, "Well, you're an expert in something." The only reason we're an expert in what we do, and the same as you, is because we've had challenges. This is the course we want to go, so we've learnt more. You know, we've studied and you know, how to get over things, how to do this and that, and that's the only thing that I think is the difference between ordinary people and people they class as experts, is because they've studied more, they've learnt more, they've engaged more. But everybody's an expert. I don't care whoever it is in something.
Yeah, and then trained to the point, you know, where the expertise kicks in, you know, the training kicks in. Like our friend Mark Jeffrey was in the British SAS, and you know, they train to like the Navy SEALs, you know, they train and train and train and over and over and over and over until, you know, the training kicks in when things go awry. And the same is really true in business and getting your message out. You know, I always think of kind of the old adage, Mark, that when the student is ready, the teacher shall appear. And really, our message is, whatever that message is, the right person is going to hear it. We have to kind of turn off the, oh man, I just need to, like, everybody's got to hear what I've got to say. Well, no, the right people have to hear what you have to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where we get caught up in the, oh, I got to have everything look all perfect. No, you don't necessarily have to have everything look all perfect. You have to connect with the right people, not everyone. It's not everyone that wants to hear your message.
And if we had a structured conversation here where I knew what we were going to be talking about, there was an ABC, this would be B. Knowing who your audience is, I think, is so important, that even if you only know one person, if there's one person that is there to receive your message, it might be a friend in your life or a friend of a friend or some type of relative, somebody that you know that really can hear your message or has been through this kind of the same thing or is going through the same things that you've been through. Because, like you said, really our message is in our mess. It's this stuff that really create what our message is. It's not all the successes. That's what makes people think that you're an expert, is all your successes. A real expert knows that their successes came from all the mess ups that they did, all the challenges along the way. So if you can find out who what your challenges are and who you can talk to. I think that's such an important part of that alignment, is saying, well, who am I here to serve? And service is one of my three themes. We were talking about the values. Well, every year I come up with the three themes for the year, and service, surrender, and gratitude are my themes for this year. So service is about, okay, I know that the money will come if I am of service. So how can I be of the highest service? Who can I service? And understanding who that person is usually starts off with understanding you. What is it that you've been through? What are the problems that you've addressed? And how have you been able to overcome that? And then who else do you see that is kind of stuck in some of the problems that you've made it through? And the more times and for me, I was like, why am I going through the same thing again and again? Haven't I learned my lesson? And sometimes it's just like you said, for somebody going through training, you hear it again and again and again. That sometimes you don't just get trained. Like, okay, you went through training, now you're done. You have to go through that training again and again. As you start to teach other people, you'll see that you encounter that problem less. Because it's one of the best ways for us to learn is to help teach others.
Also, I'd say that there's some people, they don't realise that if they keep on taking the same action, they'll get the same result. That they have got to learn to change that result or the action they take somehow. It doesn't matter, it can be the slightest little thing, and the outcome will be completely different.
That's Einstein. He said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And like you said, it can just be the most minor tweak. In fact, that's really better. Rather than doing a whole rehaul of what you're doing, take what you're doing and see what you think might not be working quite right. And if you can just do one thing, then you can hone in. Where if you just redo the whole project, let's say you have a podcast show, rather than just renaming it, starting all over, starting from scratch, just taking a little tweak and saying, okay, we're going to do the format a little differently. We're going to change the time and place, or change the style of guests. Doing little tweaks can help you really hone in on where you can improve better than total overhauls.
Yeah, I was going to I found a couple things you said interesting, Mark. One of the first ones was, kind of defining our audience, and one of the things that we found really useful was like working in video. We actually found our audience in some cases was different than what we thought, because people would respond to our videos in different ways and then come back to us, and so we learned a lot about our audience through making video, which was interesting, kind of an interesting side effect. Not really targeting our audience, but seeing who responded to our message, which was kind of fascinating. And then the other thing that I love that you were just talking about, and we do it, we actually do a thing every year about theming your year instead of doing New Year's resolutions. And you talked about that. And like last year, my theme was the year of quantum achievement for me, and this year it's the year of accountability. So picking a general theme to kind of live by is really helpful, and that's really a neat thing that you kind of brought out, because we found it equally as helpful, didn't we, Ted? It was kind of a new way of looking at things that we didn't really do before.
Yes, I was just going to say, you haven't got long to carry that out, though.
I know, the year is quickly coming to a close, right? Time is not our friend, as I often say.
I want to remind everybody, too, because you probably have found this, that creating themes is very, very helpful. It gives you a real focus. It also comes with a disclaimer that when you put that claim out there, you're going to get challenged with it. When I said that one of my major themes is surrender, boy, have I been tested. I mean, I've been tested with death in my family. I've been tested with travel, with business, in every way that I could be tested on my ability to surrender, control. It's been tested. So be sure of your themes that go out there, because they come right in your face, and you'll get those lessons that you need.
Well, mine was accountability. Need I say more? So no, but it's true. I mean, you got to be willing to step up. You're picking something that maybe you have a particular challenge in, and you got to expect to be tested when you live by a theme for the year. Absolutely true.
And with gratitude, it's really easy to create a list of all the things that are obvious blessings in our lives, our homes or our children or our food on our table. But for me, the test with gratitude is to be grateful for all of the challenges that come up and realizing that everything that happens in my life is an opportunity. In fact, the Chinese have a symbol that means both challenge and opportunity. And I find that very interesting because really every challenge in our life is an opportunity and it's a blessing. And sometimes it becomes very difficult. I mean, there are a lot of big challenges. The death in the family is not something that you want to be jumping up and down about. But when you can find an opportunity in that, we know it's going to happen. Everything's inevitable. But to be able to see the good in a bad situation really helps build your character, and it helps you to build more successes. And those are, again, learning opportunities that will really help you make those quantum leaps that you made last year.
I'm curious, was there like, because I know for me, I had a particular event in my life that got me kind of looking at things in a different way. It got me looking at things much more from a lesson perspective of, what's the lesson in this? Because I found, I'll tell you the story actually. It was my mother-in-law. I was taking care of her when she was ill, and she was in her final years of life. And I just found that she and I had very different personalities, and she kind of drove me a little bonkers. I loved her to death, like my own mother. But there was the little thing. There were certain times where I had to go, gosh, this is like crazy. There's got to be a lesson here. And that was a thing where I really started to kind of look at different aspects of things going on around me as, what's the lesson in this? Stepping back and looking at it in a new perspective. Was there like a particular time where you found that kind of clicked in for you too?
I think the idea of life being lessons, I mean, I wrote about that as a teenager. I didn't understand it then. It wasn't until I was 21 that I started to put everything together and create a book. But I guess when I started to wake up to say, okay, I know these are lessons, you better do something about it, was when my children were born. I had been wanting to write this book for literally 20 years. Since I was 21 years old. It was just before I turned 40 that my kids were born, and I couldn't believe how fast the last 10 years went. And I said, oh my God, if I don't do this now, then I'm going to be setting an example for them to put off their passion forever. So I knew that things were coming up as lessons, but then I started taking the lessons very seriously and saying, capture this opportunity. Everything changes,
Yeah.
especially I think later in life. I think having children so later, at 40, I really wanted to make sure that everything was right for them, and me making sure that the decisions that I make and the lessons that kept coming into my face, I wanted to make sure, okay, let's optimize these opportunities and not turn them into challenges and get beat up by them, but really use them to grow up much faster.
Exactly. So we're kind of coming up on the hour, believe it or not. We've been talking for quite a while about the different, pieces and parts of staying in congruency and moving forward. And so it's kind of like our time for final thoughts. But before we do that, how can people find out, or how would you like people to find out more about you, Mark? Because we're going to leave a link here and a way for them to kind of connect with you. And how would you like for people to find out about you?
Well, they can find me at Porteous.com. My real focus right now is on my Inspired Messengers Network. You can go to inspiredmessengersnetwork.com. And that's more about a community about you, about if you are a coach, an author, speaker, healer, if you see that your life has value as a messenger and that you'd like to be able to optimize that, or if you're already a messenger doing any of those things, then please join. It's a free membership. And if you feel like taking the next step, reach out to me, connect with me, email me. I love to really engage. That's the whole thing that we got involved, because I saw Google Hangouts as a real way to engage with people. So I would love to hear about you and your message and what you want to bring into the world and how I can support you.
Yeah, we're all about different levels of high touch, which I think is important these days, because most people don't want to go to that level of doing that.
Right.
So, yeah. So,
I was just going to say, you can see that before today's hangout, I haven't met Mark, but you wouldn't realise that. You know, the way the engagement has happened on here, and a lot of that had to do with how we started this third hangout, because we were having all the trouble there and everything. We were just, as I say, John and myself had the problems. Mark didn't, but just kept him informed what was happening and what we were going to be doing and that. And the engagement was building up because everybody was calm, collective, telling Mark what was happening, so he felt at home and not worried about being left alone. So all the time it's breaking down barriers, and that's what you've got to do, break down the barriers and let people see the true, you know, yourself.
I love that, Ted, and I find it very interesting again that we did have these technical issues, and they played right into the whole topic that we've been talking about. Because again, yeah, everybody was very calm. It wasn't like this is tragic. Because I could see how if I was a host, that I might be panicking, and many of your people are hosts, you know, of their own show, and that they might panic in that situation. But rather than create, because when you go into the start of a program in panic, it carries through the whole rest of the show. So rather than carrying through the whole rest of the show in panic, it actually served as us doing a little bit more bonding and getting to know each other and getting settled in rather than. And so that, I feel like this, although it was a very spontaneous conversation, it wasn't structured or anything else, it was very, very deeply rooted, and I think that people will be able to relate to that and be able to carry that now into sharing their own messages as a host, saying, if something like this happens, you just work through it. And believe me, it's happened with me all the time. I've had guests that were very, very high profile and were having technical issues, and just being able to manage that is such a beautiful way to move into a conversation. Again, it's the way that you respond. Your ability to respond to a situation really shows what you've learned from that and what you can make out of this challenge.
yeah, it's nice to know you got friends to help you out, because I know sometimes when you do have a challenge, you see it. So, yeah, you know. So I mean, it's good. It's good to know that you have people that have your back when things go awry too, which is also a good feeling, and it fits in with the conversation today. So we're kind of at that point now, guys, where we talk about, you know, our final thought for the day, what people can walk away from our conversation, and I'm gonna start out with Mark today. I usually start out with Ted because I like to put Ted on the spot, but let's start out with you, Mark. What do you think is the key thing that people should walk away from today's conversation with, in just a couple words?
Well, again, it's all about alignment. So I think that making sure that the outcome that you want will fit with what you want out of life. If you want to create a life of freedom, don't create a 60-hour-a-week job for yourself. Don't overstress yourself. Make sure that the outcome that you're creating is in alignment with what you want out of life, and no matter what you do, you'll get more satisfaction out of that than you will from the artificial successes that you might think that you want more.
Ted?
John? My final thoughts is that I think everybody here on Earth has got a purpose. Once people realise what that purpose is, they should align themselves to that, and I think their lives will be so much more enjoyable and fulfilling for themselves.
And you know, the one thing that hit me today, Mark, is I loved how we kind of went into the detail of sitting back and reflecting on things, and I think so many times we get so tied up with everyday life that we just feel like we can't do that. And to me, that's one of the takeaways from today, is that, you know, it's one of those things that is really something that is something we must do. We must sit back and be still, you know, and take that time to kind of reflect and gain perspective and maybe look at things in a different way, because it can really change the outcome. And we saw that today, and we talked about how that happened to me yesterday. And so that's my takeaway from today. So.
Beautiful. I mean, if I can elaborate a little bit, I think what you're talking about kind of goes in the same thing with Ted. The idea about Ted talking about purpose is understanding your big why. So why are you in business? The whole idea is that you're here for business. Is it really just to create profit, or do you want that money to create a lifestyle for you, a freedom for you to be able to do what you want, when you want, with whoever you want, and that fits with, again, your core values. So I think understanding your why is so important to making a successful business. Because even if it's successful, if it's not aligned with your why, no matter what you achieve, you'll still feel empty when you're done.
Yeah, tremendously important. So on that note, I'm going to let that be the final thing for today. And guys, thank you for joining us on Learn, Turn, and Earn today. For those of you that are viewing from the audience, and you'll be able to hear us on iTunes, as well as see the event that we invited you to if you want to watch the video, and on the YouTube channel Learn, Turn, and Earn. So again, hey, Ted, what can I say? I always have Ted here by my side, but Mark, a pleasure having you on today. Always a pleasure, my friend. So I'm really glad that you could be part of this with us today. Thrilled that we got you on. So.
Thank you for the invitation. It's always good to be here with you.
You're welcome. And all right, guys. Bye for now. See you next time.